30, January 5th, we're here in the House chambers. I'll call to order the Economic Development Authority meeting.
Bevins?
Here.
Beezer? Kirsch?
Here.
O'Day?
Here.
Yeager?
Yes.
And Johnson.
Here, that brings us to the approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion to
Move
approve
to
it.
approve Bevins. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, we vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up is the consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the commission and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the commission votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
Move to adopt Bevins. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar. Any discussion?
I have a question.
I'll hear it.
Are we still hearing from each group in person, or are we just passing these on the consent calendar as a presentation?
I think this is their annual or their monthly reports are just being approved by the
Okay.
consent. We'll hear
Got it.
from we'll hear from them later.
Okay.
Any other discussion? It's a big laptop.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All in favor, say aye.
No. Aye.
Oh, roll call, sorry, boys.
Bevins?
Yes.
Kirsch?
Yes.
O'Day?
Yes.
Yeager?
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that is adopted. Next up, 5, new business. 5A, presentation by consultants on 2022 deliverables. We'll start with Bladek.
Good morning, everyone. As you saw, I believe ours was delivered to you in November. So our report came back to you. Our activity report was updated and it was in your November packet. So I know it's not in this packet for you, but just to give you a little bit of a rundown on some of the things that have been going on with us. Excuse me. Want to first update on the workforce. I'll be fairly brief here, but the workforce program, now it's after 6 years of being in place with it. Mike has now completed 82 new hires in the 6 years of the program. 2022 was a pretty big year. Obviously, we hired 21 new people for this region. Of those, 11 of those hires started new positions with Brainerd-based companies. So he's got a really good pipeline working right now. He's got some really outstanding individuals and families that are moving into our communities. So very pleased with the way that program has moved forward and continues to move forward. Just a couple of highlights. I know that he did hire the HR director for Central Lakes College, which was a really big hire. There are 7 state universities that were at the time were looking for HR directors, none of them with very much success. Mike put his posting out there to hire for Central Lakes College. He ended up with 11 qualified resumes for that position. They interviewed 5. The individual that they hired was the HR director, or was an HR position at Arizona State University, and they've moved here. So really exciting to get an individual like that for our college here in town. So great work for Mike in that program. Moving on to our Unified Fund. Obviously, our Unified Fund haven't had a lot of activity this year, and if any banker would tell you that the reason for that is that there's not a lot of need for additional funding for loans that are going out. I think we're going to see a pretty significant shift in that in 2023 with the rates going up. We've revamped and updated our marketing for the Unified Fund as well as all of our applications. So we'll have looking forward to some more activity with that. Still don't have any outstanding or delinquent loans on our books. We still have a little over $500,000 outstanding at this time. So we'll continue to work that program, but it's working as it was designed, and very pleased with how it's getting out there. Regarding marketing and promotion, obviously you can see where we've updated with our rebranding last year. It gave us the opportunity to update quite a bit of stuff this year, but want to focus on a couple of things. One is our website. It's had over 23,000 visitors in 2022, which is a pretty significant increase in traction or traffic, on our site. Our homepage obviously being the most visited, followed by our job portal and staff pages with over 90% visiting as new users, over 1,100 views of Brainerd information. So it's good information that's getting out there, so we're pleased with that. I just want to highlight one other thing with regards to that. Facebook analytics, our reach is up over 31%. 4 of the 5 highest performing posts for 2022 were Brainerd projects, which is great for this group and for us. Obviously, the Main Street Grant post reaching over 7,000 people on July 25th. Washington Street information, along with the CTE wing open house for the Brainerd High School, and then another Main Street Grant post. So good information there. We continue to work with the high school on their Youth Entrepreneur Fund, funding more businesses each year. So excited about that. I'll move on quickly to obviously some of the work we've done. We're still involved. I'll update you guys a little bit later on some of the activities with the Main Street Grant and where that is at today. We have some updates with regards to that. We finalized the administration of the grant funding for the child care economic assistance grants, which put out over $800,000 in funding to child care in and around Crow Wing County. And then also, with the supporting businesses with our new contract with the SBDC. One note point of reference for all of you, the SBDC has hired a new executive director. Their previous director, Rebecca Rowe, left for a job with the SBA in Washington, D.C., so they have filled that position. Katie Hepner, who was the economic development director over for the Wadena County, has accepted that position, and she started on Tuesday. So we're excited. I know Katie. A lot of the consultants that work with the SBDC know Katie and the work she does. So we're excited about that. But we've had quite a bit of activity, obviously, with the SBDC, along with us and the SBDC staff. They've provided over 420 hours of consultant services for 72 unique clients in the area with Brainerd addresses. So it's great that the Brainerd businesses have recognized that we're a resource for the SBDC, and the SBDC still continues to be at the college and doing some great work. So they've got some really solid consultants out there. A handful of them are retired individuals that are really good at what they do, obviously, but do everything from some financial consultant to business plan development. So it's been a really good move for us to have solidified that contract and continue to be. We've signed a new contract for 2023 to be a satellite office for the SBDC. And then lastly, I'll comment on our business retention visits, and I've got some thoughts on how to maybe change that for 2023, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, a little bit later. But as you can see, having visited a number of businesses in Brainerd, asking questions related to, based off of the document that you guys approved last year, the corporate structure, when the company was founded, types of products and services, general revenue and expenses, market information, and then just general policy questions regarding issues or concerns, and then general obstacles of growth. So, we have business resources, marketing, programs, and incentives. So there's a lot of information that we've gathered from our businesses and some interesting feedback. The feedback is really kind of centered around, they know these are anonymous. So asking the questions when they know they're going to not have their name attached to the answer to this. There's some businesses that are questioning that they look at this from the outside looking in and say, why is everything happen downtown? Some of the businesses out in the industrial park that's the first question they ask. I got a few questions or a few responses from folks that were out in the, down at the end of South 6th Street, out in the East Brainerd Mall area. Actually, some businesses down by us that are asking those questions. When does the funding exceed past the river to rail? When does the focus of attention for activity exceed outside of the downtown? So it's really something I think the feedback gives me, and I think it will give you guys certainly some direction based on the guidelines that you've set for 2023 as to how we maybe target that a little bit more specifically. One of my thoughts is just being very direct with surveys. We have a very solid response rate to the emails and the constant contact information that we send out. I think it maybe be something to look at or something for us to talk about is, do we survey these people? Do we survey the businesses throughout the city and ask very specific questions? I know that previously Tony had brought up the comment about asking, talking about facade improvements. The question that, that it's a great question, but we have to be more specific. And where to be cautious with this is that people are going to want money. If we're going to ask very specific questions about needs that they're looking for, they're going to ask for, well, where's the money coming from? So that's just my caution. That's my caution, because I've heard that when, people open our emails, typically in the past 2 years, they're opening them because there's money available. There's grants out there. There's opportunities. So that's just my feedback is from the responses that we were getting, very direct about how do we extend some of the services out past the river to rail corridor or outside of the downtown corridor. And then secondarily is, if we are going to do that, how do we target this directly? And then the next piece of that is if we're going to do that, is there money out there to offer? So that's just a quick, I know we got everybody going. I'm happy to answer questions for anybody that has them for me.
Any questions? I've got one, just to clarify for the viewers at home. You're asking in 2023 to be compensated at the exact same level you were in 2022, and you're proposing to perform pretty much the same services you performed in 2022.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you for that, Tyler.
Yep.
Next on the agenda was, under 5A is next up is DDBC, so we'll go with that one next.
Good morning. I'm just going to hand these out really quick to everybody.
Okay, Brenda, and then get your name and address when you get back to the podium.
I did really good, so. Anyway, good morning. Brenda Billman-Arndt, address 719 Laurel Street, Brainerd, Minnesota. I'm here representing the Destination Downtown Brainerd Coalition in regards to the consulting services for 2022. First of all, I just want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to provide these services. You may or may not know I own a small business within the city of Brainerd. And to see these initiatives happening is really important. It makes me feel good about my decision to have a business in Brainerd and want to keep my business in Brainerd. Everything the EDA is doing and the city is doing in this regards is so important. And again, I can't thank you enough for it all. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of go in order of what was in your packet, I believe. So the first one is coordinate a Main Street job fair. That did not end up happening this last year. In the spring, business owners and businesses reached out to, and there was not a huge response to it or a need for it. So it was pushed back to the fall. Again, businesses and owners were reached out to. Again, there just wasn't a lot of reaction or response for the need for it. So I believe the alternative that we are looking at is to put a permanent job listing on downtown Brainerd's website, where owners can update, businesses can update what is available for small businesses. Yeah. Okay. And then next, produce and distribute promotional videos. That is in the works. There is quotes received from Blaze Air to produce promotional videos highlighting different businesses in different stages of where they're at, like new businesses, businesses that have been here for 20-plus years, why a business bought into downtown Brainerd. So that is in production, will begin in 2023. Next is, sorry, I'm just going in order here. Classes. Again, that one was, has not been done yet. There has been cost. It's really high cost. We found out and really did not fit in the budget for it. We were aiming to have that coordinate with the podcast series, and I don't know. I'm not sure what to say about that one. It just has not happened. As far as the podcast series goes, that turned out really well. I don't know if anybody has listened to it, but it was done so well. It's called Main Street Matters, and there's been 13 podcasts produced, all on different topics regarding marketing, local events, mental health. I encourage you to listen to it. Really, really great and very informative for all small businesses. Business Owner Socials is next. Those have been, again, really wonderful. We have done them on a quarterly basis, and it's just getting small business owners together to meet and share ideas, get to know each other, and create a strong business community within the city of Brainerd. The next one will be held in January, and the attendance has been really wonderful for those. It's, again, as a business owner, it's really wonderful to be able to talk to other small business owners and share ideas and be there for each other. After that, we have the Main Street program. We did obtain membership for Main Street in 2022 and are continuing education with them starting, actually this week. Next week, we'll be attending classes and learning more about organizational. And then upping our status in 2023 to affiliate, where we'll be gaining access to a lot more grants and funding programs, services that they have to offer. They did come and visit our city in October, I believe. They came to our downtown, met with a group of us, toured, and it was really great. That was our local Minnesota chapter, Rethos, that's down in the Twin Cities. And then as far as kind of miscellaneous updates, there was a lot of programming events that happened in Brainerd. We have the Here for Good market that happens for 12 weeks over the course of the summer. 20 rotating vendors, live music, bringing a lot of people into the city and to our shops. There was a scavenger hunt over St. Patty's Day, which was having people explore downtown Brainerd, find hidden clovers, win gift cards to help promote shopping. Fourth quarter is always very busy. We have our Spooktacular event, which in my estimate brought about 1,200 kids plus their parents into Brainerd. The streets were crowded if you were down there at all. Small Business Saturday hosted a passport event going through the holidays and gave away 10 $100 gift card packages. And then we have our downtown tree lighting and window walk and Santa's workshop that happened all in December. Going into 2023, we really want to work on the Main Street programming and creating a sustainable organization. Like I said earlier, that's going to give us access to more programming, resources, education, and creating measurables to make sure to know what we are doing right. We want to see positive growth. The goal is to create economic vitality and create an inclusive community environment and engagement. We would like to continue with the promotional videos and business owners social. And I think that's all the updates. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions?
Yes.
I do have a question. Did you guys ever open up to memberships? I mean, I know there's 4 or 5 businesses that are mainly involved in DDBC,
Yeah.
but as far as the rest of downtown businesses, I had kind of pictured it as becoming more of a membership-based.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to make sure we're inclusive. We want to include everybody. We want all businesses to be included and represented in work that we're doing. I think that's really important. Moving into 2023, we're setting up a structure where we will ask for donations and a membership in that regard, because that is buy-in from businesses to create a funding source for what we're doing, and that's really important. But we don't want to exclude anybody, if that's what you mean by memberships.
Yeah, I'm at a business based downtown. I've never heard of any membership. That's why I'm just asking.
Yeah.
But I remember when we started this a couple of years ago, we had talked about the first year of funding was the idea to get
Yeah.
things going. Second year of funding was increasing some of the services, but we had
Yeah.
always looked at
Yeah.
becoming more independent
Yeah.
for DDBC. And I don't know if I'm hearing that
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, you know what, that is something, that is a goal for 2023 is to do that. And that is something with the Main Street programming, is to access some sources that they have and to get that buy-in of membership is, like, I don't know, I want to use that word, but, buy-in from the business and get contributions from them. Absolutely. And that's already been talked with some businesses, and people are very receptive to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you guys have had a lot of positive and successful events that could also be used for fundraising as well.
Yeah.
They're well attended.
Yeah.
And they're important. I think we should continue to have those for sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's maybe some missed opportunity for funding
Yeah.
for that type of thing.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that is a goal for 2023 to get that going. So, yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I've got a handful. So here, looking at last year's scope of services, and you went over it all. I mean, you have the job fair that you were going to do. That ended up not happening. And then you were going to do promotional videos featuring local businesses on a monthly basis, and it didn't happen. Then you were going to conduct classes, provide instruction in areas of business operations. That didn't happen. You did do the podcast episodes, and you did do the happy hours. And then it says you're going to apply for and obtain membership in Main Street America through the National Main Street Center on behalf of the EDA and the city of Brainerd. In your monthly report this month, dated 12/27, so it has been like a week, so maybe things have changed. But on 6, it says apply for obtain membership in the Main Street America program through the National Main Street Center on behalf of the EDA and city of Brainerd. Update, DDBC welcomed Loretto's team members to Brainerd in October 2022 to meet with city employees and DDBC members. And I was there. I know you did that. And it said, gained more information on direct pathways to Main Street America accreditation and will continue to explore in 2023. So I'm hearing conflicting statements that a week ago you were exploring membership in Main Street America. Today you're absolutely members.
We have a membership. Yeah, we obtained membership. I believe it was, gosh, it's been a while. I want to say it was probably in June or July. It would have been part of the monthly report. And then, so basically
Right, the monthly report for December says you're exploring it in 2023.
So that's probably just something. We have membership in Main Street, and what we're looking to gain in 2023 is a step up from where we're at now. So they have different membership levels with different accreditation, and so we're looking to get the affiliate status in 2023.
So when I met with you and the state people in October or whatever, we weren't members.
We were
'Cause I
members.
asked that question, and I asked what it would cost to be members and what we would need to do or what the expectations of the city would be, and there were no answers given to me. There was only,
We were members then.
but you didn't say that then. We're saying that now?
Yeah, we were members then, yeah.
Okay, well, it's
Yeah.
good to hear. It's good to hear that we did get that one done then. So you're proposing for 23.
And I'd be more than happy to provide the paperwork on it as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen any of the paperwork or anything, especially since we've been members since June. So you're proposing for 2023, and all of the city's checks cashed, right?
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
All of the payments from the EDA to DDBC cleared the bank and were deposited and everything, right?
I believe so,
I
yeah.
don't think any of them bounced, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're proposing for 2023 to increase the fee the EDA pays DDBC, but we're eliminating the podcast, the one thing you did do. We're eliminating the instructional classes, we're eliminating the job fair. We're eliminating about half of your proposed services from 2022, and we're increasing what we're paying you. That's what the proposal is?
I don't have the proposal in front of me, I'm sorry. I thought we were discussing 2022 today, so my bad for not having that in front of me. But
Yeah,
I
just
know what we're
2022 reflects, your performance in 2022 reflects upon how I view it moving forward in 2023. That's why I asked that question.
As far as the job fair goes, I mean, I think putting it on the website and exploring different avenues as an alternative to the job fair, to me, it makes more sense in regards, it's not like a one-day event. It's something that's out there and can be utilized year-round. And that just makes more sense to me, but
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't propose you guys do a job fair. You proposed you
Yeah.
do a job fair.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm just revisiting.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Any other questions?
Real quick.
Move on to the next one.
Yeah, Mr.
Kevin.
Chair, Brenda, thank you. Knowing what you learned in 2022 and assuming that based on that learning, you crafted the proposal for 2023, what obstacles do you foresee that will prevent you from accomplishing every single task that you're going to put in your proposal for 2023?
I see no obstacles for 2023. I think in 2022, a lot of it was resources, and that's something that is going to be addressed really quickly. We really need to harness our volunteers and work with that a lot. And working with the Main Street program, I really feel strongly everything will be accomplished and plus some.
Gotcha. And just one follow-up, and when you say resources, that's money or that's people, bodies?
People.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That's all.
people. And that's important, thing that will be addressed right away, so. Any other questions?
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Then that goes next for Swanson Hanscamp. Jennifer.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. So in your packets this morning, I was going to say this evening, but it's this morning, I provided a memo and broke it out by each of the individual tasks or objectives that were identified in our scope from 2022. I think the key difference probably between our services and some of the others, and actually it's probably very similar to Bladec, most of our stuff is ongoing. It's something that we get started and it doesn't happen overnight. As you all know, the real estate world just doesn't work that way. So everything really that we have in our 22 scope essentially carries over into 2023, although I have refined the scope in 2023 to better match, I think, some of the outcomes and what came out of the process and what we, accomplished in 2022. Excuse me, my voice keeps going in and out. So just, I'm going to go over very high level because you all have the report, so I don't need to reread it for you. But our first task was really about marketing, understanding exactly what properties exist, what's here, going through a prioritization effort with you. If you all recall, we did that very early in 2022. I believe it was Q1, where we went through a prioritization effort and identified properties in Tier 1, 2, and 3. The objective being that Tier 1 properties, we couldn't focus on everything because there's just too much to look at. So Tier 1 was identified as the the vacant parking lots or the underutilized parking lots in downtown was primarily what fell into that Tier 1 category. And then that became the basis for some of our work that went into some of the subsequent steps or tasks in our process. So that was completed in the first quarter of 1. Recognizing that we had Tier 2 and Tier 3 properties, all of those remain on the list. It's not as if they dropped off. And actually, I would propose that very early in 2023, we need to readdress that list, because I think based on some of the things that might be going on, for example, the redevelopment of the Thrifty White site, we may want to shuffle things around in terms of our priorities, because sometimes it's good to let something sort of go and start, and then we can learn from that process. While that's happening, we can tackle something else that accomplishes another goal. So I think we might want to readdress that priority list. If it's the same priorities, that's absolutely fine, but my gut is we might want to address that list and maybe adjust it. Let's see here. The last bullet I want to bring up, in fact, I apologize because I meant to send the map to staff prior to the meeting today, and I just got distracted by our 1.5 feet of snow down in the Twin Cities. So, but I want to talk about it just briefly. We have a couple of these resources or deliverables or documents, if you will, that really are tailored to fit and could reside on a website. And one of the things I think you've heard from some of the consultants is we've got different websites that live out there and different portals of information that exist. And we as a consultant team in our quarterly meetings have talked about how do we centralize some of this information. So if somebody comes to Brainerd and they want to locate a business, if they want to build something, if they want to live somewhere, how do we have a central location where this information lives? Because we have some of these things that are definitely ready, could be pushed out to the world, if you will, live on a website, be awesome resources for folks, but at the moment we don't really have a place that all of this information lives. So the consultant team has talked about how do we create that place for some of this information so that when the public or a business is looking for data or information that they actually can get it, because we have the resources developed. They just aren't publicly somewhere where it's intuitive for someone to get to. So that last bullet, we've got a full inventory. If you guys recall, I think it was in about June, July, we put it together. We were able to actually take it. We had a table that correlated to that map. Actually, our team was able to take that, then do pop-ups so that there's like a location mark of each of the business. It pops up, tells you what the business is, tells you a little bit about it. That's something that really is web formatted. That's where it should live. We just have to find a place for it. So I want to bring it up just because there's some of these resources, some of these pieces that are developed. Now we need to take it to the next step in 2023 and figure out where does it live? Where do we put it? So the second task, I took my glasses off, so I'm going to have to read from my sheet. So the second task was to promote property in the corporate limits. So basically what we did is we took the information that was part of that first prioritization process. Then we went ahead and actually did some fit testing and analysis to figure out how many units, how much parking, based on the current zoning, what can fit, and really started going through the process of, okay, if we're going to take this, package it, market it, then how does it work? So that we completed for the Tier 1 properties. We began the process on a couple of the Tier 2 properties too, and that information is existing, it lives out there, but once again, we've got to take it to the next level in 2023 and figure out exactly how we want to approach it, because the fit tests, the promotion, et cetera, really marries in with the market analysis that we did. That was delivered to, I believe it was in back half of Q2, beginning of Q3, where we talked about basically the demand for residential, the commercial, and the business environment. As you all know, the market changes constantly. In fact, we're already changing again as we go into the first quarter with interest rates rising. So now all of a sudden when we talk about gaps in sort of construction financing, what a project might cost, what rents it can demand, et cetera, we're going to have to readdress that again. So again, I think that's going to be a Q1 activity. In real estate, we always say that actually right after the Super Bowl is kind of the right time to hit because for whatever reason, people think spring's here, even in Minnesota, which is completely not true, but let's pretend. And so I think in the first meeting or two, that's when we really want to hit that moving forward. Solicit developers on behalf of the EDA. There were several conversations that occurred. The one that I want to highlight because I think it's extremely interesting and also fits with the promotion of the downtown properties because they're multifamily or mixed use. About a month ago, I toured a facility that's actually a volumetric modular construction facility. I don't know if any of you are familiar with, I know Mr. Yeager is, but the rest of you, it's pretty cool. So what they do is they have this gigantic manufacturing facility essentially, and they build modules inside of it, which basically are finished portions of apartment pieces, if you will, and it's not just like a panel, it's literally the unit. They finish the whole thing. They put the kitchen sink in, they put the utilities in, it's wild. And they build the entire thing internal to this manufacturing facility, and then they, for simplicity's sake, saran wrap it, put it on a truck, and then they put it together like Legos or building blocks on site. It's very cool. The thing that's really appealing to me from a outstate or a Brainerd perspective is that with the labor shortage, it gets built in the facility and then basically it gets constructed like Legos on site. So all of a sudden your labor issues aren't quite as significant because what you really need at that point is the person or the team that's putting it together on the site. But 90% of the construction happens internal to the manufacturing facility. Super cool. We talked to them about the Brainerd area. They were very interested. They have talked to a couple other EDAs, but I think there's a huge opportunity maybe to explore that with them in the new year. And the other piece of it is that would be the type of project I think that could work really well on some of these vacant or underutilized parking lots, just because you also have the constraint of small sites. So if you can piece it all together like a Lego box, it could be very cool. And they were interested in the area. So that's the one I'd like to highlight there. I think that was, that facility too is actually in Albertville that I toured. And this is within their sphere in terms of what they think would be economically viable. The other piece of that is they are owning and developing stuff. So they will work for developers. So let's say we had a developer here that wanted to do this, they could hire them to then construct it. Or this company is also doing some of its own owning and development internal. So there's a couple different options there. Engage private property owners on behalf of the EDA. That process is ongoing, I would say. Again, there's a couple greenfield sites that I think actually just based on what I've heard, based on some of our communications that we might want to explore further. That's where I'm talking about this whole maybe we reprioritize things in the first part of the quarter and maybe connect with some of those individuals to see what kind of opportunities might exist for product types other than multifamily. Really our first step, in the beginning of 2022 was really multifamily, but I think we might want to explore whether there's another product type that we would like to prioritize and bring into the mix. If that's the case, I think that's probably more on the private sector side, or private property owner side, as opposed to municipally owned property. But we might find some municipal. Develop partnerships with local real estate agents and professionals. Again, that's an ongoing process. We had a few meetings with different folks. One of the things that we've developed at the back half of the year was actually a questionnaire for both the real estate industry, if you will, but then also developers and contractors that are in the area. I think those questionnaires could serve as a great basis for one of the activities we are proposing in 2023, which is to do some roundtables. And so instead of calling up individuals one by one, facilitating a roundtable, I think might be beneficial in using some of those questionnaires that we've developed. Let's see here. And then lastly, it was really just the administrative stuff. It was the attending your meetings. You probably saw me more than you wanted to, or at least when I was here, it was too long, according to some commission members. Not even
Kelly
a
was ready to go to
not even
20
a
minutes.
laugh. He's just he's just tired. He's like, Happy New Year. All right. And attended the quarterly meetings with the consulting team. The thing I would say about that actually is before those consultant meetings, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys, I didn't know anybody, or not many. You know, obviously I knew the folks from the planning and zoning side, but I didn't know the other consultants. And what I learned through that is getting to know everybody. We all have very different skills, and there's these different platforms, media places, you know, the business happy hours, whatever, that if we continue to talk amongst ourselves, I think that there's a huge opportunity for us to leverage all of those and actually do a little bit better job of coordinating our efforts in the new year, now that we all know each other. And really, I think that's a huge benefit. It will make all of our services actually have more bang for their buck. Because when we started, I think all of us were sort of like, well, I do this, what do you do? And now we have a much better idea of what we actually do and how we might be able to use each other. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? I've got a few. So the develop and implement marketing, advertising, communication plan for identified properties within the corporate limits of the city of Brainerd. And that was like the downtown parking lots, more or less. Have you developed, or could you develop basically just like a one-sheet thing that would go on a website if and when we ever have one, that would have a layout of the site, dimensions of the site, answer the first 5 questions a developer would ask that could be sitting on a website?
So we actually have started, we have basically it's not a page, but we have information like that for each of the properties in the tier 1 that we identified. We had, if you recall, in one of the reports, it sort of laid out exactly what's the size, what's the capacity, what's the zoning, all of those things. That's the sort of the sheet, if you will, the info sheet, that if we can get something online, then you could click on it, that info sheet would come up and would answer 90% of the questions any developer might have. So that's the piece of, we have a lot of this stuff created. Now we have to figure out how do we, and where does it live? The other piece of that is if you want to take it to even the next level of that you're outwardly promoting this, like using one of the, like MNCAR, Minnesota Commercial Area Association of Realtors, or you want to use one of those sort of broker locations. We do, I also have a brokerage. SHC is the consulting, Camp is the brokerage. When we proposed on this initially, we said that we could use Camp brokerage services. That would be the outwardly marketing of it, or one of the ways to get it on a public portal. We just didn't talk about that in the last year. That's something we can do, but we would want to talk with you about how does that look, and then
Well, that's you taking 9% of any property sales, right?
90%.
9.
Oh, I was like 90%. That's amazing. I'm signing up. No, not 9%. That's why I'm saying we would need to negotiate that and talk about that and make sure that what gets put online is what you want, that there's actually, if someone writes us an offer, we have the tools in place to do that. So I'm just bringing it up as if that's something we decide, let's say there's 3 sites that you actively want to do that with, we have the capability to be able to do that in the new year.
Okay, and then it looks like more or less you're proposing to continue maybe more even, just continue down the same path that you started in 2022, going into 2023?
A bit.
Same services, more or less?
Similar, there were a couple add-ons, actually. The most significant add-on that I would suggest was based on your goal exercise or vision exercise that you went through in October, whatever, the fall, where I was in attendance, and we talked a little bit about gaining some more insight from businesses, developers, contractor, just the ability to, we initially were talking about interviews, and I think there would be a huge benefit to hold at least a roundtable, maybe 2, and try to get some folks in the room together. That's a little bit different than our 2022 services, but it's basically a refinement of 2022 of where I think, based on what you guys have responded to me, how we can move forward in 2023.
Okay, and you're proposing your fee to go from $31,900 up to $35,000 for 2023?
The extra money is essentially the roundtables and the interviews. If that's something you don't want to do, that's certainly something we can take out of the scope. But we put it together based on if we were to do that, work with Bladec, do some roundtables, that extra couple thousand would cover the cost of doing at least 1, if not 2 of those.
Thank you. Anything else? No, thank you, Jennifer.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that brings us to the next item, and that's a presentation by Visit Brainerd. Mary.
Good morning. Sorry I'm a little bit late. But I just wanted to touch base. It's not a presentation so much as a recap. The big thing, yeah? You want to wait?
The chair would normally say name and address.
Oh, Mary Devine Johnson. Which address do you want? 214 South 7th Street in Brainerd. I represent Visit Brainerd. So in terms of the 2022 Shared Services Agreement, Visit Brainerd proposed to do advertising strategies for the EDA. And we very specifically broke out goals or strategies based on the goals in your comprehensive plan and your work plan from the previous year, targeting entrepreneurs, trying to recruit businesses, the development of certain lands and properties, that type of thing. I built the proposal last year on that plan and that goal worksheet that you guys had put together. Mistakenly, I didn't take a look at the assets that were available. And so I identified that early in the year that if we're going to do a digital heavy campaign, we need a logical place to send people. And so the big hole here in all of the strategy is that we don't have a landing page or a website or that kind of thing with additional information that isn't just a City of Brainerd /EDA. So then what I did was pivot from a targeted digital strategy to an awareness campaign. And we ran a multimedia approach in all of those areas for shopping, both winter and summer campaigns, and then just really raising awareness that Brainerd's open for business. We've got storefronts that you can walk in, we've got developable land, we have a workforce, we have a lot of opportunity, and the message was broad, and we put those ads out all across the state, primarily in Bemidji, St. Cloud, and in the Brainerd area. So different strategy, but still able to deploy the advertising. We spent $34,000 of the $35,000 that was allocated. There's just a little bit left that I was intending to use for doing some LinkedIn advertising and Facebook advertising that we didn't do this year, but we can certainly carry that over or give it back to the city if you want. Any questions on what I did in 2022 specifically?
Any questions on what she did in 2022 specifically? Seeing
Question, I have a comment.
Sure.
I appreciated the balance sheet that you provided. It's really nice to see exactly where the money is going, because not everybody has the opportunity to put it down there the way that you guys did. So.
Sure, and I can add another layer of information. It's generally more meaningful to people who do advertising, like we ran 1,246 radio ads. We delivered 50,000 digital impressions. There's 1,000 cars that drive by the digital billboards every day. And if anybody's interested in that, I've got that data and I'm happy to share it. But sometimes it gets a little too far in the weeds. But I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. And if anybody wants to see ad copy or hear it, if you haven't heard it, just anecdotally, especially when you're doing an awareness campaign, sometimes those are very hard to measure specifically. So that was why I originally intended to do a digital campaign, because we can count clicks, we can count search traffic. We can find out how many people came back to a specific spot saying, yes, we're interested in land development, or yes, we're looking for an open storefront. And I'm hoping that's what we can do in 2023. And part of why I proposed developing a website specific for the EDA that can have that information and provide a place for things to live. Jennifer has lots of, HasCamp has lots of documents and things that she can feed, the website. And obviously there's ways to collect information and then retarget people and all of that too. So I think, as she mentioned, as we learned through the process and got to know what each other can do and started to kind of refine the strategy from what we hear from you and even just our own expertise, it'll just continue to get better. So that was the big change in the scope for my services for 2023, was the addition of a website and then finalizing a marketing strategy. I started building one, even though it wasn't in my 2022 scope, because that's just how my brain works. So it's hard for me to just start putting ads in places without building out a framework. So if you want me to finish it, you're welcome to have most of it for free, or you can hire somebody else to develop a comprehensive strategy, or we can work on it together. But my fee increased about $4,000 to account for building a website and assisting with a marketing strategy. I also pulled out one of the ad campaigns that we ran in 2022 and then lumped them into one campaign to talk about recruitment, retention, workers, and then we left the two shopping campaigns, one for summer traffic and one for the holidays. So that's what's in the scope for 2023.
Any questions on the changes in the 2023 services? I've got a couple. So the increase is $4,000 and change, and that's for building a website, more or less?
Yep.
Okay, so then you're going to assist with creating a marketing strategy. Who's the lead on that?
I wasn't sure. We put together the proposal in November before some of the part of it was finalized, and so I put it in there.
Because if you're the assistant to the leader, if the leader doesn't take the lead, you don't do anything.
Yeah. Like I said, there's already a strategy that I've started that I just would be happy to share and then finish, or I can turn it over to city staff, or we can hire somebody if you want to revisit that. But that's a softball. I didn't know, but I felt like it was important. There's some other things that I feel like are important from a communication strategy that should land in that strategy as well.
And then in the same vein of the marketing strategy, does this include creating or fine-tuning a brand identity
It does not.
for the EDA or the city?
No.
So that would be outside of the scope of these services, as a brand identity. So how are you going to develop a website without an identity?
Well, last year I purchased the domain Brainerd.works and was intending to continue to use that messaging, and that's what I've been using in the print and the radio ads so far. Advertising and marketing is a process, right? And so in 2022, I made a lot of just singular decisions based on what I thought were the right things for the city and the messaging that I was hearing. If we wanted to do a comprehensive process and back up a step or two, that would be fine. I'm happy to do that. I would even maybe make that recommendation. But it's a challenge when you've got kind of the commission and some of that work hasn't been done. We can totally scrap and revisit my scope. From that perspective, if the priority is branding and a website, let's do that. And whether it's me or you hire me and I hire a sub-consultant or something like that, totally open. And we could certainly add more or take some away. We could prioritize one of the shopping campaigns instead of doing both, since that's a heavy lift. It just depends, from my perspective, on what the main priority is coming from the commission in 23.
I know we're moving towards every other month, I think after next month, was it? For meeting here. And I don't know if that would be something that the entire committee would be able or willing to sit down and try to consult with you and try and come up with strategies for that website and for the branding. But maybe like we did with some of this other stuff is make a subcommittee. Maybe have 1, 2, 3 meetings just to hash some of that out. That's just an idea. Instead of adding in more consulting and more cost. If
Sure.
that helps.
Yeah, and respectfully, I don't want to do it via committee. I've done websites via committee. I literally just had, just a quick horror story. 15 years ago, when I worked for an engineering firm, we had a consultant give us 4 different designs, and I sat in a room and they literally cut paper and built a website. Not going to do it, hard to do, but a subcommittee would be great if you've got a couple people that are interested or have some expertise. And I also think that if we revisited my scope, and you can add to it, or like I said, we could certainly tweak and pull one of the other ad campaigns out, if that's not as high of a priority. There are people here locally that we could pull in that it's, there's a guy I know that'll get out of bed for $1,800. There's a guy I know that'll get out of bed for $5,000, so we can find something in between the middle if it's something that I can't lead, a committee through too.
1,800 and 2 White Claws.
Yeah.
Sit out of bed.
So, there's definitely expertise in the community. But I have done branding campaigns and multiple times in my career, so I think I could do it. But I also recognize that I'm a strategy person, and if we want that special polish on the creative, I need some help there. But
Yeah, I like that idea, Mike, that perhaps we create a EDA subcommittee that takes the lead on creating a marketing strategy, so Visit Brainerd can be the assistant to the subcommittee creating a marketing strategy. Any other questions? Thank you, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
I will say one thing.
Go ahead, Mike.
I am hearing a lot of website talk from at least 3 of the 4 groups here. I know you guys have your own website, but it sounds like you guys are kind of coordinating together, though, which is a step in the right direction. I think you're talking about the same website, correct? Okay, just want to make sure. We don't need 3 more websites. 1 more would be good.
Chair Johnson, if I may.
Yep.
The stuff that Jennifer's group put together does sit on our website currently.
In the Brainerd Baxter neighborhood?
No, just in the Brainerd Wild Ad. It does come up. Under your community profile, it comes up. So it's Baxter, Brainerd. We break it out into 3 neighborhoods, Brainerd, Baxter, but it falls in under the Brainerd community profile. So it does sit out there. We can add to it. We can do a lot with it. It's just, that's where it currently sits. So we've been working with Jennifer on that. So it's a good place. Get some good traffic on that. So we can keep working forward. Mike, 224 West Washington. Sorry, I didn't mention that when you talked to me.
And I don't honestly really want to deviate from a website. I think that that's important for the Brainerd EDA, just having some sense of where the organization wants to go and how you want to position the community for development. But another opportunity would be to build out a more robust LinkedIn and look at that as a tool too. And so, but I think the website still needs to be a priority, because even though we could put the same information out on Bladex website or on the city's website for search traffic, search engine optimization, people looking for information, when they hear an ad, they're going to go, okay, what am I thinking? And we need those keywords to be serving in one spot where it can all live. So.
But you're not proposing any social media management at this time?
No.
Okay, anything else before we wrap up 5A on the 2022 deliverables? Okay, we'll move to 5B, consider the 2023 shared service agreements. So there's a memo here from, these memos keep calling you, Jennifer, the executive director, but there's nothing in the shared service agreement between the city of Brainerd and the EDA that has an executive director label in it.
The bylaws of the EDA do.
Well, then maybe we should consider appointing an executive director this year or something, but is there anything you want to share on the 2023 shared services agreement, Jennifer, that isn't in the memo you included in the packet?
Nope, everything is in the memo.
Thank you. So the recommendation is to authorize the chair and executive director to enter into the shared service agreements as presented included in the packet by Bladek, DDBC, Swanson Hascamp, and Visit Brainerd. And the city, or we approved that one in December? I think we approved that in December so we could get today's agenda created.
Excuse me, if Lori wants to send me live, so I can pull up on my screen. I have the budget, and we could talk about, there was 130,380 that was left over for Bladek, Visit Brainerd, Swanson Hascamp, and DDBC.
So if we fully fund all of these proposals at 134,675, we're dipping into fund balance
Of about $4,300.
$4,300 of reserves.
$4,295 to be exact.
Which is $4,295 we would not be able to spend on any EDA initiatives or programs or projects or anything we want to do in the future. Thanks for pointing that out, Connie. Are you going to share your screen and share anything, or is that?
I'm connected. This is it right here. What do I need to do, Lori?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just a quick question.
Oh, I bet
money
it's
is
on the
already
wrong screen.
in
Hold on,
your
hold
guys'
on, hold
budget
on.
For next year, right?
100,
Minus the 4,295.
yes, we put all of the remaining unbudgeted money into just
It's
consultant
sitting there.
services,
It's
shared
sitting there.
services.
We can decide whether or not, what's going to happen today with this money,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, it's in the budget for hiring consultants to perform the tasks we want.
See, hold on, let me,
So yeah, there it is. Our budget had 133.80 because that's what was left of our maximum levy.
Okay.
now I can see it too. Okay,
Minus the 134,675 minus the 130.
so this is what was requested. This column right here is where we were at last year. And so we had the 133.80 to be a balanced budget.
Okay, what's our fund balance? Do you have that down at the bottom there?
Roughly about 67,000 is what we predicted to be.
And that is also in your memo too. We would need to use about
4,300.
$4,300 out of the fund balance to balance the budget if you were to fully fund all 4 of these agreements.
Well, okay, I guess I'm looking for a motion on if we fully fund all of these proposals or if we scale one back to get us to a balanced budget instead of spending more than our revenues, or if anybody's got an idea, I'm willing to hear it. Or we can move on to the next item on the agenda.
I'll just give my quick opinion on it. I think Bladek is proposing to do the same thing. I think they want the same amount of money. It makes sense to me. Visit Brainerd has given their proposal, and I think what they've done is showed us where the money went and showed us where the increase is aiming at going, which is kind of bringing everything together. And Swanson Hascamp, I think that adding in that extra money for those roundtable events, or 1 or 2 of those, I think it's great, and I think it's heading in the right direction. I think that is more of a long game. I know they mentioned that in their presentation, so I think 1 year of what Swanson Hascamp has accomplished is great, but I think it's just a building block of what it can do in 2, 3, 4 years. So I do have concerns with DDBC just because there was a lot of things that weren't accomplished. I don't want to see DDBC go away, but I would rather at this point see DDBC's fund balance or funding going the other direction rather than going up, just because I want to see it become more independent. I don't know what that number should be. Obviously, if you look at the fund balance, if you take off $4,300 from that, you end up with right around 20,000 instead of 24,000 plus. But I would be more comfortable with that than dipping into the fund balance. And as far as the remaining fund balance, I know we've talked about, when Tyler was talking earlier, we talked about some facade improvements and where the money should come from. I think some of that money should always be available for that. If we have money at the EDA, I think we should make some of that available for facade improvements throughout the city, not just downtown. But
Can those kind of funds come from our revolving loan funds rather than the EDA's fund balance? You know, we have
Like the local revenue.
the local revenue. I know some of it we'll be using for a match when we do the grant that the EDA is or the HRA just applied for, but we do have, we have revolving loan funds under the financial report. So, we have like the downtown revolving loan fund, the local income that will be used by the HRA, or part of it will be, we have the Southeast Brainerd grant. We have some funds here that we
So-
could use for some of that.
Connie, the EDA is a separate legal entity from the city of Brainerd per
Correct.
state statute. The HRA is a separate legal entity from the EDA and the city of Brainerd per state statute. Whose money is that?
It is the city of Brainerd's money.
So we would
that-
have to ask the city council
That
to
his-
appropriate any of that money.
Historically, though, the EDA has been the one that makes the recommendations to the city council to use those funds and the loans. That's kind of what this money is for, is the small city development programs that we get that revolve back around. That makes sense that the EDA kind of controls. That's how I've looked at it and why it's always been included in the EDA report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also in your goals, really is to take a look at the information that we are getting from BLADEC to create programs that will help our businesses. And that's one of the things that James and I have talked about, that we look at doing starting like in this first quarter, meet with BLADEC, figure out what we heard from our businesses, and if there are programs that we can create, and then come back to the EDA with a recommendation on a use of some of these revolving funds that are sitting there.
Okay, and then another question, because this has just confused me for the whole 8 years I've been around.
White claws.
Yeah, that might clear things up. So when we approved the pre-application or whatever for the HRA new Southeast Small Cities grant on Monday night, the city council, the city council, committed some of this local income to assist with that project.
Actually, I misspoke. The local income is when we have less than $35,000 a year that we receive back in loans, that becomes local income. That still has to meet the federal objective. We have program income that is still sitting, part of the $49,000 cash balance, for example, in the downtown in 298. That is the money that we would have committed, potentially could commit. We have to use our program.
Which money, which fund number did we potentially
298.
commit?
And 215.
Okay, but it's, the EDA didn't make that recommendation. The
And we
HRA made that request.
Right, and we haven't gotten that far in the applications of how much we have to use either. We don't, that's not all program income either.
Right, but it just seems like, yeah, the EDA can make requests, or the HRA can just use it as a slush fund, but it's the city's money, but we're three separate legal entities that just kind of are all looking at the same pot of money.
Yes, and
So
part,
so I'm not confused, that is what it is.
yeah.
Okay.
And part, in order to get the deed grant, you have to use your program income too. So it's,
Right, yeah, we have to commit a certain amount of whatever.
right, yeah.
But whose money is it? It's the cities, but
Cities.
it's also the HRAs, and it's also the EDAs, and everybody just gets to use it when they need to, want to.
I would say the 73,000 is the city money, is the city's money as well, but I would say that would be a good program, something for the facades.
Okay. Mike?
And it doesn't have to be facades, that's just an idea. Whatever these surveys bring up as a big need for whatever businesses need throughout the city. But I don't have a perfect answer for where everything should end up as far as the 4 proposals we have. Like I said, I'm very comfortable with 3 of them. I think maybe we take a step back on looking at DDBC as far as what projects we want fulfilled maybe in the new proposal. I am also concerned because I know that the one employee at DDBC, I think, is leaving and moving out of town. I don't know the answer to that.
You want it?
Chair, if you want to answer that question, but.
Yeah, Brenda, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, Riley will be leaving at the end of January, so she'll be on through the end of January. And that point, I probably myself will be taking over a lot of the responsibilities. And again, like I talked about, garnishing that volunteer base and really getting that momentum moving, getting more people involved, and and hopefully we'll be able to find a replacement for her. She has done a fantastic job touching out to the businesses and doing what she does. So,
All right, do you have a motion, Mike?
I have a motion to fund Bladek, Swanson Haskamp, and Visit Brainerd at the proposed amounts for 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to fund Bladek, DDBC, and Visit Brainerd at the proposed amount and authorize the to be appointed executive director and chairperson to enter into the shared service agreements with the organizations. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
I would just leave DDBC as blank right now, 0. Just because of the fact that I think we need to see more, as Mr. O'Day said, more concrete as to who, when and where we're going to do some of the things that we didn't do. Second, I really liked the thought of downtown business should have some participation. That was part of what we thought, as Mr. O'Day said, we would see in 2022. I know as a business owner, I'm 100% responsible for my own promotion. So I would leave it blank for now, and we could readdress it into the next. I mean, you could put it in there with the reduced amount, the 4295 reduction to cover it if you wanted to. But you could just leave it blank.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, in the motion, we're entering into the shared service agreement, 3 of the 4, and then we already have our budget finalized for this year, and it has the 130, 380, so we would just leave that, but appropriate the 35, 35, and 40.
Yep.
With 21-ish still sitting there that we could revisit a refined proposal from DDBC or something going forward.
That's exactly what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, refined proposal and or project-based, event-based, if DDBC needs funding for things like that. I think there's going to be a lot of reorganization going on there too. I mean, none of this discussion is actually part of this motion, but I think we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, the motion included everything except DDBC.
Correct. For those reasons.
Yep.
We can still fund DDBC. It just might be a different type of agreement.
Any thoughts, Kevin, Marie?
No, Mr. Chair, just my only thought here is that the theme that, not everybody here, I don't want to pigeonhole everybody, but the general theme that I heard today was, well, 2022 didn't work out that well, but we're going to get them in 2023. So if this same conversation comes up next year with the exact same tenor, I'm going to have a lot different opinion on continuing on with all of these entities, to be perfectly honest. And generally, I think there should be a conversation, not today, but somehow, that all of these groups should be meeting and working, because I'm hearing the same needs emerging from almost everyone here. And it seems like maybe we should be taking this 135, spinning it globally and having, as instead of parsing it out to 4 entities, everybody go out there and do your work, let's all just work together with this 135 collectively. Maybe that's a 2024 project, but that's kind of what I'm seeing emerging here. I'm uncomfortable with some things, but I also understand this takes time, and I'm looking for big improvements in 2023. But I support the motion.
Thanks, Kevin. And I think with the quarterly meetings that they did last year and continuing those going into this year, I think we'll get more cohesion and working. And I agree with you. I expect to see it too.
Yeah.
We should see it. Marie?
I'm just trying to clarify, so we wouldn't be funding DDBC and we're asking them to submit a refined proposal before we're able to fund them? Is that?
So the
direction we're moving?
current motion on the floor is to fund and enter into agreements with Blade X, Swanson, Heskamp, and Visit Brainerd. The current motion doesn't address DDBC at all. We've had some discussion on it, but this motion doesn't address that.
So there needs to be a follow-up motion
Yeah, to clarify anything.
DDBC for
Yep.
moving forward. Okay.
Anything else?
I would just say if we don't fund DDBC, I mean, they need to have some funding to be able to have staff time to put towards putting a new proposal together. So I guess I'd be more in favor of just funding them at whatever the reduced amount was, less whatever we had to dip into the fund balance, just to be able, to let them move forward with the project work that they proposed for 2023.
Okay, anybody else? On the motion to enter into agreements with Blade X, Swanson, Heskamp, Visit Brainerd? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Do we want to make a motion? Do we want to give better direction on what is expected of the remaining amount we have for $20,380 in the, what's the line item in the budget there?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion. I'd like to fund DDBC for $10,000.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to fund DDBC for $10,000 in 2023. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
I agree with Marie. I think they need something to get rolling. I think they had a lot of things that didn't work or weren't the way they were planned. It doesn't mean that they have no value. It just means that we don't see the 23,350 value. So as part of this, if I was with DDBC, I would put together a stronger proposal as to what we're gonna do, what the value is, and why, and come back at the next meeting. But it doesn't mean that I don't think they have any value, or that we should give them no budget to start off 2023.
Any other discussion?
I just agree, and I think this gives more incentive to DDBC to start with those memberships, start with other types of fundraising. That's what it's intended to be. But there's still fund balance remaining. We have a extended fund balance aside from that. And we learned about even more money that we have somewhere sitting there sharing with other groups.
Slush fund.
Yeah, a slush fund as well. So I think DDBC can still come back. Anytime during the year, if more funding is needed for events, I want to definitely see those events continue. I think that should be maybe your first focus because it's been your best success, and move on from there.
Thanks, Mike. Any other discussion? No? I'll support the motion. I would support giving DDBC the 20,000 and change that we have left over, but I'll support this motion. And I think it would be nice to get a stronger, concrete set of deliverables, more than just 4 business after hours and the 12 videos we paid for last year. You know, so I would look forward to them coming forward with something more concrete too.
Just to add to that, I mean, I know more of the details of this, having helped put together the proposals, so I know there is more detail there. So I'm fine with funding at the 10,000, and I think at the next meeting, DDBC can just have a more fleshed out proposal and spell out more what we're requesting for and the original amount we requested, so.
Perfect. That, we have a motion to fund DDBC with not the shared service agreement presented, but just to fund them at a $10,000 level. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Do you always wear a watch, Kelly?
I don't need one, it's in my head. I've
Okay.
got 2 on the wall here, though.
Yeah. They're different again.
Both say we're over time.
That brings us to 6, staff reports. Jennifer?
I'll be brief. One thing I did want to comment on, that at our last quarterly meeting with the consultants, they had asked about the potential of having a liaison from the EDA attend those quarterly meetings. Mr. Chair, if that's something you would be interested in, having a liaison to this quarterly group attend, I guess I would ask that you appoint somebody or ask for a volunteer.
Does anyone want 4 more meetings next year?
Technically, from last year, we're still down meetings if we're going into the 6-meeting year. So adding, what, 4
We're
back
already
in?
up to 7, and it's only the
Some lucky soul's gonna net actually 2 less meetings. The rest will,
Oh, we'll find something.
We're 5 days into the year, and we've already added a meeting, Kevin.
Woohoo!
When are these meetings?
I don't know, but Tony will be happy to attend.
All right, and then I'll be brief with the rest of my report. Your next meeting in February, a couple of things. It is your annual meeting according to your bylaws. So we will have the EDA's annual meeting, at which point you will choose a president or chair and a vice chair. We want to talk a little bit about the state hospital land that we do plan to put on your agenda for February. And then, as I'm hearing, a proposal from DDBC. And that is all I have.
Thank you. HRA, Eric?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief as well. As many of you have heard, we are proposing to do a pre-application for a small cities development program grant for Southeast Brainerd. The City Council on Tuesday did approve us to put in that pre-application as we talk about funding. It's a pre-application, and then they let us know if we can actually apply. So we haven't decided how much we may request for local dollar match for that. We have sent out information and a survey to the Southeast Brainerd residents in that corridor. Happy to say we sent that out at the end of December. We've already gotten 7 inquiries that say that they're interested, and we didn't think we would have nearly that many at this point. This was a very truncated timeline this year. Usually DEED puts this out in June, July. They actually got their funding and put this out in November. So we're a very truncated timeline. We have to submit this application on January 17th. So we're hoping that we do get at least to apply for this, but we'll find out in the next month or two. And then still working with the developer at the Thrifty site. We'll be attending a webinar for additional funding that they're looking at 10 o'clock this morning, and continuing those conversations with that developer. They are kind of shaking the trees to find funding to make sure that they can hopefully proceed with their project. Haven't seen any final drawings or anything like that at this point, so don't have any updates on that, but we are still moving that hopefully forward. That is all I have.
All right, and then anything happen on Thanksgiving?
Yes, I did have a daughter, our firstborn, Cordelia Primrose, and we're very, very happy. I am a lot less sleep deprived, or more sleep deprived, I would say. But things are going well. She's happy, healthy, and mom and dad are happy.
Congratulations. All right, that brings us to commissioners' comments. Mike?
Nothing to add today.
Kelly?
Nothing to add?
Kevin?
nothing to add.
Marie? No. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Take care, everybody. We've got 11,000 left in the budget.